Welcome to the 5% podcast, where today we'll be interviewing Dionne Clifton, who is a realtor in the Urbana-Champaign, Illinois area of the United States. I'm so excited to share her story with you. She is absolutely part of the 5%, 5%ers. Her story will motivate, inspire you. As you know, we have conversations on this podcast about individuals who are pursuing their goals relentlessly and ensuring that they achieve that. So today's story is no different. I'm excited to introduce you to Dionne Clifton. Please be prepared to be inspired. Hi, Dionne. It's so great to have you today on the 5% podcast with me. I was looking forward to this, so I know that Karen had quite a few friends here locally in Champaign, Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, and so where you're from, born and raised. But I think it'd be great for us to learn more about who you are, beyond what you do, but like who you are, family, how you grew up, and maybe how that's influenced you today to where you are.
So I grew up here in Champaign, Urbana. I went to undergrad here at the University of Illinois, so I really wanted to go to the West Coast. I wanted to go to UCLA when I was in high school and have the opportunity to do that or to stay locally. And I chose to stay locally because I wasn't really fully ready to kind of spread my wings at that time.
It is a pretty big jump,
it
to
was
leave our family and our home.
Yes. And I think, I always felt very nurtured. My mom was very protective. I would say I was sheltered growing up almost. So going to college, though, was a great experience for me. It just really opened up my world and my perspective. I learned, so much about myself in that period. And then after college, I was able
And you stayed at home, like in your home, or
No.
you went on campus
No.
too?
Yeah, my parents were very adamant about me having the full college experience.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, I lived on campus and I never went home. I
was free. You were like, I'm free.
Yeah, they would close the dorms and they'd have to kick me out of there. So,
not even for holidays.
I did go for holidays.
Oh, okay,
I didn't go home
regular.
Every weekend or do laundry at home. I really did have the full away experience,
That's
which
awesome.
I'm really appreciative of. But after undergrad, I took some time off and then I went to grad school in California. I finally got out to California. And I didn't go to UCLA, but I went to USC.
Okay.
Which was a great experience. And then again, just kind of like stretch my wings and learn more about myself. I studied, communication management at USC, which is really a great opportunity. And everyone in California works in the entertainment industry. So obviously I got into the entertainment industry for a little bit. I was a television producer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was basically packaging and selling reality television shows to networks. So always have had like a sales and marketing kind of connection professionally. Then, as that kind of era in my life was coming to an end, I moved back to the Midwest, and people always ask me, why would you move back to the Midwest?
You got out. They're thinking, you got out. Why did you come back?
Why did you come back to the snow and the hail and the unpredictable weather from like California? But
it's a dream to sort of be in California and even have some of the experiences that you have. So
it really is, and it was a great experience for me. But I think I was having some push and pull from my family. My dad was in hospice at the time, and so I really wanted to be home. And like, the plan was really just to come home and see my dad through hospice, and then maybe go back to California, move to another bigger city. And that's kind of like when the real estate thing happened for me.
Okay.
There's a joke in the real estate industry that real estate's always someone's second career. And for me, it really was. But I didn't ever see myself being in real estate. I didn't think that was a career that I would enjoy or be passionate about or love.
And because you came from more of a creative perspective too. Not that real estate isn't, because I do see, for myself, I feel like real estate does allow me to be creative.
Yeah, so I have a really good friend who has always been in real estate. His family was in real estate. His dad's dad was in real estate. So he's like third generation real estate. And so he really urged me to give it a shot. And at that time I was, open to trying it, but didn't really think that it was something I was going to do long term. I've always had a really uncanny ability to excel academically. So I knew that I'd be able to get through the courses and take the tests and pass it and, get the license, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with it after that. And then once I started learning about it and understanding it and being able to, not only serve the community as a person who was a representative of real estate, a real estate professional of color, which I thought was really important to bring to the community.
And do you find that here in Urbana-Champaign that there is a fairly diverse real estate representative community, or is it more limited to onesies, twosies?
I think it's limited. I do think it's limited. And I'm very passionate about improving the diversity in the real estate professional space, because I think that real estate professionals will help improve diversity in home ownership and real estate investment. So I've always been very excited to see more people come into this career and into maybe not necessarily being agents, but being home inspectors or lenders, or just having different sorts of
mortgage agents. There's just so many moving parts to real estate that if you have the diversity within those spaces, I agree, you can bring more, especially immigrants and minorities into home ownership.
And so in the U.S., African Americans make up about 13% of the overall population, but only make up 3% of home buyers.
Oh, wow.
So,
those are great stats.
That lets us
We need to improve them. That's too huge. I mean, 13% is, I actually expected it to be larger for African Americans, but 3% is horrible.
It's deafening when you think about how important home ownership is to wealth. And so when people are getting really interested in this kind of buzz term, generational wealth, the first step is home ownership, right? And unfortunately, there's other communities where not only do they own real estate, but their parents own real estate, their grandparents own real estate. So we're talking about a lot of people getting into first generation home ownership. And in order to do that, I think that there needs to be education. So education is going to be coming from the professionals in the industry. So I think
the experts.
The experts. And, it's I always think of it we are these beacons in our communities, regardless of what we do for a living. We educate people on what we do for a living. But in real estate, we get to come back into our communities and say, look, you can purchase a home. This is what you need to do. Or, you can invest in a home. Or here's some tips that I have. Let me refer you to this person. We make it more accessible. We make it more realistic for a lot of people. So it's really important that we diversify the real estate professional community so that we can diversify and increase home ownership in those communities.
Yes, I agree. It's and well said too, because I think that some people don't recognize that real estate isn't just about the agent or just about the mortgage. There are so many other aspects of it, from the appraisers to the inspectors, and those all make up a good, it makes it so much more attainable when you understand those other parts and other roles that people can play, because I've seen how inspections or appraisals can affect the purchase price or the value you get, especially if you are already an owner and you're trying to sell, right? So and even today I was able to visit you at one of your open houses. And
thank you.
No, I thought it would be great to come and check you out and check out the property itself, just to see what real estate inventory looks like here, because it's very different from myself in Toronto, right? I was explaining to you, price is a huge difference, but taking a look at you in your space today, I could see that you love what you do and that you're passionate about it, which means that for the clients that you work with, they're going to definitely have a great experience. And I could hear from you too, the house that you were listing today was your former client before, which I love, because I love when I see that realtors have built a long-term relationship with a client, because you know them, and they're vested, and you're not just trying to sell or buy. Because I told you the story of my the experience where, I felt like this realtor had he had a really good chance of working with me long term, but he was so limited in his perspective, because he couldn't see that you only sold me one place, but I'm trying to show you how you can actually sell that place again and help me buy and sell more, right? So I like that you build a long-term relationship with clients.
Yeah, it's really important. The average price point in our market is about $240,000.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, which makes homeownership really accessible. But, I always like to think about, the lifetime value of a client. And so, I can capture the commission from a $240,000 average sale, or I can capture, they say the lifetime value of a single client is up to $1.3 million. And so...
See, you even know the numbers, and knowing the numbers makes a big difference. Yeah. And I think every realtor needs to understand that.
And you only can capture that value if you maintain the relationship. If you, understand what their unique needs are, try and service those needs, align your services with their needs. And, not only will you be able to have a relationship with them, but also hopefully their family, their friends,
network. Yes. You can go wide and deep.
Yeah, right. So, and then we have millennials, who they like to buy houses every 3 to 5 years, unlike, generations before them that was more like 15 to 20 years. Yeah. So that lifetime value of that customer is expanded even more. So the relationship in this business, when you're on the selling and agent side, is the most important thing.
I was going to say it's probably the single most important aspect.
Yeah.
I think in general, building relationships with people in any business is beneficial, but probably more so in real estate, because it's not like you're helping them buy something that's small and trivial. Yeah. It's a large, and in fact, it tends to be their largest investment. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's everyone, when they purchase a home, is very emotionally attached to it, because even if it's not the most expensive thing that they own, it is one of the most meaningful things that they own.
My first home, Dionne, was my dream home, and it was a townhome. It had another house attached on this side, another one on this side. It did not have a driveway or a garage, but it was still my dream home. Yeah. I was so excited to buy that and move in and call it mine.
Yes.
And I think that every person, even when they realize, because I think most people have this really big fantasy of their dream home as a detached home, with this large sprawling yard, and then they realize that their pocketbook can't afford it.
Their budget does not match.
Their income doesn't support that mortgage, and then they have to be real, right? And sometimes it's hard. Some people can't easily flip it and work with what they are able to, but most people can. And so in the end, I remember just being thrilled that I could buy. And you may be like myself, where I didn't grow up with family that owned. Not even my mom or my, anyone in my family that I could think of at the time when I was buying owned, except for my sister, who was a little older than I was, and she'd already bought her first home with her partner. Is that your story at all?
Yeah, so my neither of my parents owned real estate until I was a senior in high school. My mom bought her first home. And so, I think that for me, home ownership did not come into my purview until I became a real estate agent, because I always thought that was something that real adults do. So,
I think you mean older. Because I know that we're young adults in our 20s and stuff like that, coming out of school, but I think you mean just someone more senior.
Yeah, absolutely. In your 20s, you feel like, okay, I'm an adult, I'm grown, but do you really feel like an adult? Do you feel like, do you have that connection to how you see your parents, and I didn't. So I was like, oh, I'll do that one day, but not right now. Or that's for someone who is very wealthy or someone who has wealthy parents. And it wasn't until I understood what the process entailed and what it required that I was like, this is for me. This is something that I can do. And then I made it a goal for myself and I made it happen. So yeah, that's why I think it's so important. Again, not to really beat a dead horse, but I think it's so important for people to be able to see representation in this space because, it wasn't until I started to see that, other people that I was connected to doing this that I realized it was something that I could do too.
Yes. Yeah. No, makes sense. I agree. I started off in my professional life as a teacher, and it was largely to bring representation to the classroom. A lot of the children that I saw in spaces in Toronto, they were like me, but the teachers weren't reflecting that classroom and that diversity that you saw in the classroom. So I understand what you mean by bringing diversity and looking at and seeing professionals in real estate, and not just realtors, but in the real estate industry, like all the different experts that make that up, should be reflective of the community that they serve or the community that, should be going into ownership. Because I think that the greatest and the best way to build wealth is through real estate. And any book, any expert that I've read and learned, and anyone that's built themselves to millionaire status, they've all done it through real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was my most favorite quote is that 90% of millionaires are born through real estate or some version of that quote. And that's 9 out of 10. That's pretty good statistics. So, if you and I and anyone like us, or whether single or married or, of the Caribbean descent or African descent or what have you, because many other cultures already, they come from second, third, fourth generation homeowners or wealth, where wealth is already there. So I speak to people of color largely because we don't come from that. And the greatest way to build that is through real estate. So.
Absolutely. And, one of my mentors told me the same thing. Like, I didn't, he didn't come from wealth. He grew up in a house that was the size of a room with a dirt floor. And he, was able to build wealth for himself. And then when he decided he was already a millionaire, he decided he wanted to level up from there. He looked around at the room and said everyone had real estate. Everyone was investing in real estate, in a very significant way. And so that's when I pivoted and started focusing on investing in real estate. And so I think that, it's so important that people understand how important this is to their overall portfolio of, whatever that is. Maybe, you don't want to have this large portfolio, but home ownership is important. People send their children to college with equity that they've put in their homes.
Absolutely.
People
retire
with their equity that they put into their homes. They improve their lives significantly just by making a home purchase. And I'm always so disheartened to hear like people speaking in spaces where there's almost fear of owning real estate. Oh, I'd rather rent because, if something happens, then I have to pay for it. And I'm like, well,
it's a little too limiting to think that, that you could be responsible to fix like something that breaks in the house or, what have. And typically, the way I've seen it, if you've built wealth through real estate, like if you've owned it for 5 even years, it doesn't take long for equity to build up in a property. And guess what? You can use that equity to help repair, any large ticket items, because I do agree that it's very tough on a single income or even sometimes two income to save and set aside to meet, major work that may be done around the house, right? But the house itself could be a wealth, like it could become a savings account or a retirement account, or even how you're able to help your next generation, your child, buy their first property or their, or like you said, go to school, right?
And also like, even if even just having an asset that you can pass on to your children. You know, again, like I say, I hear on social media channels and in different spaces, generational wealth is such a buzz term right now.
It
And
is.
people are very interested in this idea and like, what does it mean? I want to build generational wealth. I want my children and my grandchildren to have something that's a part of something that I built. Well, the easiest and most, you know, tried and true way to do that is through real estate. So
absolutely. I'm going to ask that we maybe just take a short break here. Exciting to hear that, you know, you went from one profession, which is common, like you said, for a lot of realtors, to something. I think it's brave. I mean, I know you were brave because you left Champaign to go all the way across the country to a totally different part of the world, which I think takes a lot of courage to do that. And then you came back here to then later, you know, move into a profession that you probably never saw yourself in. But being that you recognize that it's a great wealth building tool and that you yourself has bought into it, maybe you can talk about your holdings or how you've utilized real estate to build wealth for yourself and your business.
Yeah. So in late 2016, I was able to purchase my first primary residence. So at that time, I was 35. And so, which is, to me, was a late start, but it's okay. You know, like I always try and encourage people, like, it doesn't matter where you are in life, it's where you're going to end up. So at 35, I was able to purchase my first primary residence. It was a fixer-upper, but it was a really great fixer-upper. It was a mid-century. Mid-centuries are, you know, hot to trot in this area. Everyone wants a mid-century. So I knew that if I could secure this property and do the updates that I wanted to do, then I would have a ton of equity in the back end. And so this is not a situation that I recognize this is not a situation that everyone gets, right?
Especially for a first-time buyer.
For a first-time buyer, right. But, you know, I kind of had a great agent myself. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I was able to kind of, you know, fish out the house and put in the right offer and get it a great price. And I did not have the money to do the renovations all at once. So I really did the renovations over the course of 5 years.
Okay.
It took me 5 years. It was
That's a hard feat to do, to also live through that?
Living through a renovation is not awesome. Unfortunately, that was not the last time that I lived through a renovation.
Oh, so you were willing to try it again after.
So, unfortunately, yes. But
and you also bought that home yourself alone. You didn't have a partner.
No, I bought it myself. Yeah. And it was 3,200 square feet, so it wasn't small.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was not a small home, and it had like a lot of strange features and like specialty things. So you couldn't just get stock you know, items to put in this house. So it took me some time, but I took my time with it, and I was happy to take my time with it because I had the time. And
so it was a project.
It was a project.
And it was a bit of a passion project.
It was a passion project, and you know, like, kind of got to draw on my experience living in California in my little studio because I didn't need all 3,200. I could just live in my little one room until the rest of the house was done. So, I was able to finish that house and gain quite a bit of equity from that house. Wow. And so that helped me build the relationship with the lender that I really needed to have, my commercial lender. And then my first investment property I purchased was a two unit. So it was a duplex. And that was really like a comfortable space for me because I felt like, okay, you know, I'm getting into this tenant space. And while I had worked in property management or managed properties before, I just was, you know, concerned, like, I don't want to purchase something and the tenants don't pay, you know, like that was a concern that I had even as a real estate professional.
It doesn't matter. They do it to anyone.
Anyone.
Even someone who has a lot of experience and is a property manager.
And that property was rented already. So when I bought it, it was rented already for an entire year.
Okay.
So that gave me a lot of cushion. I felt very comfortable with that. I did some upgrades to that property as well and was able to build some equity in that significantly too. Then my third property that I purchased as a short-term rental as an Airbnb. And that was, I bought the property for about, I think, $60,000. And I invested $32,000 into it.
So So it was also a fixer-upper too.
It was a fixer-upper. It needed quite a bit of, renovation, but that was okay. At the price point, I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things that I really like about this area is that you can get some good
prices.
deals. Yeah. And I was able to...
Those are not prices you could find in California, by the way.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No. You were good to come back to the Midwest and say, because California would be nothing near that.
Yeah. I mean, it was a small home, but it's cute, and so I was able to recoup all of my investment in that home within the first 9 months of owning it.
Okay.
Once I put it on the short-term rental market. So that was really great. And then...
And the great thing about the short-term rental market, too, is you're getting improved income over a long-term rental.
Right, exactly.
So you were able to get back all that you invested in it to do the rentals. Amazing.
Yeah, in 8 months.
People, these are nuggets. These are amazing nuggets. That's a really good... And the price point at which you bought as well, at $60,000, that's awesome.
Yeah, and, I think, that house now, it would appraise for right around $145. So I mean that was a great. That's one of my favorite.
Triple the value, and that's the triple the price.
Yeah, pretty close. So that's one of my favorite. It was a low cost of investment, very quick turnaround on the income. It's not huge margins, but it's something that I think that I can hold on to, and over time it'll continue to appreciate.
Absolutely. Do you still have it short-term rental, or you're doing a long-term
I do have it short-term rental for now. It'll go long-term furnished rental June 1st for a year. So,
okay. Okay. Yeah.
The short-term rental market, I think you have to be flexible with it. So that's one thing that I've really been able to appreciate is just keeping my nose on the market and kind of understanding what's happening. And so as more people get into the short-term rental industry, it's kind of driven prices down a little bit in our area. So
yeah, and then your occupancy might drop as well because now you're sharing it with so many more people.
So I've kind of pivoted and offered it as a short-term or a long-term furnished rental, which there is a gap in our market for that. So
that's good.
And
you're also a university town, so you can find the opportunity to offer it to a number of different types of clients.
Yes. So it's worked out.
Yeah, for 1 year terms. That's awesome. So continue.
And so I purchased another flip that I kept as a long-term rental. And
so in my where we are, we typically call them like a BRRR. So is it that you're buying them, you're renovating them, right?
Yep. Okay. So buying it, putting usually significant amount of renovation into it, and then renting it. So I bought
were you able to pull out any equity or use any of the equity?
No, I left the equity in. I try and leave the equity in when I as much as possible. And so I try and leave the equity in, and then just try and recoup on the rental income. So but I do have quite a bit of equity in that house as well. I think the loan to value on that house is probably about 50%. So that's pretty good. And I didn't put any money down to buy that house either because I was able to purchase on the improvements. So the lender was willing to give me 80% of the
after repair
improved price. So
wow,
that was. So it really I didn't need to pull the equity out, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. Another really good nuggets there, people. I think it's really good that you have employed some creative strategies or even looked for unique ways to enter the market, right? Like buying low, renovating, right? And bringing up the value and then using the income to help offset some of that. That's amazing.
It's also important, I think, to build a good relationship with a lender because sometimes they'll let you leverage the equity that you have on the properties that you own without having to officially leverage the...
without taking it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're almost like collateralizing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really important to build a relationship with a lender. And I mean, obviously in this rate market, people like to rate hop a lot, but I've found that being loyal to a lender that you have a good relationship with and having conversations with them that make sense and really trying to negotiate with them will tend to give you better long-term results than rate hopping.
Yeah, and I think I agree. The key is that you've built a relationship with them. It sounds like it's a mutual relation, like it's both ways.
Yeah.
I tend to leave you if you're not willing to offer me what I need and what makes sense for me.
Right.
But I'm open to meeting you part way if you are. Yeah. So, and I agree that makes sense. But really good. Any other projects or properties that you took on after?
So let's see. And I bought another, I would say pretty turnkey rental at a really good price. I then put my first home on the rental market. And so I was able to...
So you moved out of it and then...
Moved out of it, purchased another renovation that I lived through.
Because you enjoyed that a lot.
Because I loved it so much. But I was able to rent that personal residence at 300% of my cost, of my like carrying cost. So I had to make it work. You know, it only made sense to make it work. But it's actually over 300%. It's
wow.
Yeah. So it definitely was not awesome to live through another renovation after I said I was never going to do it again.
But you had a strategy, you had an end, vision of what you wanted, and so this was part of how to accomplish it.
Yeah. Yep. So I did that, and that was, started on the building process for a new personal residence for myself while I'm living in the house that I renovated. The plan is that my house that I'm building would be done and I would move into that. But I rented the house that I'm living in now.
Yes.
So now I have to find another house because there's going to be
there's a gap.
There's going to be about a 2-month gap. So, but that's okay. I'm closing on 2 houses on Wednesday of this week. So
congratulations.
Yeah. So I'll be having a busy summer with, renovating those. They both have tenants in them now, so we'll see.
Yes.
And
so when you buy, because just for our viewers and listeners, when you buy with tenants in it, do you find that you're getting tenants who are paying market value rent already? Because that's key to ensuring that you can either cash flow or carry the expenses.
So these tenants, so it depends. I would like to. So the duplex, the first thing that I bought, yes, they were paying market value.
Okay, good.
The things I'm closing on Wednesday, no, they're not paying market value. But, they're significantly below market value. Probably about 50% below market value. While that's not ideal, it's also a good space for me to be in because it allows me to build equity and also it allows me to borrow on improvements still. So it's on the improvements and the anticipated rental income, which made the deal make sense for me in that case.
Okay, so the numbers still can work for
you. The numbers still work. Like at where we are now, at what I'm paying for everything, I am making like $17 a month, right? So,
I've had, believe you me, that sounds similar to a condo that I bought and owned in Toronto. I lived in it, but if I had rented it out and I went on a show to share, like at the end I would only have about $17 left after. So it was like, ugh. I mean, but it's still $17 plus, not negative.
Yeah. So the plan is to, make the updates, improve the properties, and then get new tenants in, or new leases with the same tenants, but more likely it'll be new tenants in.
Yeah, because a lot of tenants, if you've upgraded and done the work, sometimes they don't want to pay the improved for the improvements and in their rents, right? So that's, you can see. It depends. If you can negotiate with them and show them what you can offer them and their incomes and their numbers make sense, well, you might have a win. If not, hopefully they're open to. In Canada, we like to say we can offer you cash for keys or, so we can sometimes pay them out to maybe have a first and last to move on to their next place.
Yeah.
But let's maybe take the time now to share some I guess, key strategies that you feel that you've utilized as, you know, a 5%er, because you've definitely done that. You've showed yourself where maybe as a teenager, you know, or just coming out of college, that maybe homeownership wasn't something that you could do immediately, but absolutely once you figured out at 35, you've done it time and time again. So what are some 3 things maybe that you could think of that are 3 key that you would encourage others to use, that you've used to help you get to where you are?
I would say the first thing is discipline. So like, you know, in my business recently, I told my friend the next time I hire someone, I'm going to ask them, what do you do every day? Not necessarily related to work, but what do you feel like you do every day? Do you go to the gym every day? Do you call your mom every day? What is your routine? What are the things that you do regardless of how you feel? Because that tells me a lot about how you're going to perform in a job or how you're going to just perform in life, honestly. And I think discipline is really the primary key for success. It's the ability to do what is required in order for you to obtain your goals, regardless of how you feel. Because there's some days I go into work, or there's some days that I go into, you know, this business and I feel really good.
Yes.
And those are great days. And it's really easy for me to be like, yeah, I can do this, you know. But there's some days I go into work and I'm exhausted, I don't feel good, or I have some personal things going on. And I think that the difference between, you know, the version of me now that is able to obtain my goals a lot more consistently, and previous versions of myself is just increased, almost like a maniacal level of discipline. So, so that's one thing for sure.
So
I think
discipline?
Be disciplined. The second thing is humility.
Okay.
Yeah, I think humility is something that, you know, you have to be humble enough to be able to ask questions, to know that you're not the smartest person in the room. I know people say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But I mean, rarely are we ever the smartest person in the room, right? There's always going to be something that someone knows in every room that we don't know about. And so we have to be humble enough to position ourselves to learn those things, because everything that I've been able to do in real estate has been because someone taught me. You know, someone else taught me, because I was willing to ask them, hey, how did you do that?
I like that. I do agree that mentorship or coaching and having someone who can help lead you, you know, who's done it before you and done it well.
And I find that like people are very kind, like successful people are very kind when you ask them like, hey, like I want to do that too. Like, can you give me some advice? They always say yes. They love to help. But they also don't like just volunteer the information.
No. Because like you said, you know, humility. So they're not trying to appear to be the know-it-all or the,
So I think that is a key. Maybe not strategy, but it's been key to just a part of my strategy.
No, that makes sense. So discipline and humility.
And the third thing would be diversification. So for me, diversification has been really important in my business. So I am a designated managing broker owner. So I own the brokerage.
Okay.
I sell real estate. I work with investors. I invest in real estate.
Okay.
We have a property management within the brokerage. And I teach at the university here locally.
Okay.
And I teach sales and marketing, which is really adjacent to what I do in real estate too. So it has been so important for me to diversify, because it allows me to pivot a lot more easily. Real estate can be such an up and down industry. It is very sensitive to things that are outside of our control.
Some of them are happening right now.
Yes.
So many economic factors that you can't control.
Yes. So how do we pivot? You know, like, are we going to say, you know, like, sales are down this year, sales may be down again next year, but, you know, property management for us is up. And then, you know, I'm thinking like, do you want, what other real estate adjacent spaces, or what sort of adjacent spaces can you get into? What can you use the skills that you have and scale and like enter into spaces and use the same talents that are not, watering down what you're doing otherwise, but actually contributing to it in a positive way.
It can enhance you. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, diversification is so key anyways. And like even in real estate in my portfolio, I try not to own all condos or, just have all long-term rentals, right? Because you need to make sure that you can find different ways to generate your income. And if I had all condos in Canada anyways, in the Toronto and GTA area, I would be struggling right now. I'm still struggling, by the way. It's been a tough 2 years. But I would think that the prices of condos have been taking a beating in the market. The rental income is not as great. So diversification is so key.
Yeah.
And all three factors, discipline, humility, and diversification, I think that's great. Now, is there a book? I mean, I love reading, whether it's today now audio, because I'm trying to, when I'm traveling or I'm on the road, I try to, pop in an audio book as well when I'm cooking at home or doing things. So it could be audio, it could be, a book that you read, because I love the actual book as well. Is there any books or one or two or three that you can think of?
Well, there's a lot of books. One book that I really I like to come back to a lot is Ask and It Is Given.
Okay.
I love that book just because it really helps me recenter in the strength and importance of how you think and create things in your life based upon, your beliefs and what you believe is possible. I also really love reading books like biographies, autobiographies about women and women in business, specifically women of color, just because I feel like sometimes being a woman in this industry, and especially a Black woman in this industry, I feel like I'm on an island a lot of times. And so it's really nice to be able to see that I'm not, that these are things that these women are dealing with too. Right now I'm reading biography by Sheila Johnson, who, and it's great, it's just like really hearing her story and like what she's gone through, and how that has impacted and shaped her life, I think was great.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I do think that, and I find the reason I always ask for books is because for our listeners, a lot of people don't have a lot of money to invest in their, self-development and growth.
Yeah.
And books are so inexpensive. It's such a simple, cost-effective way to access knowledge and to gain even strategies and skills, because oftentimes if these people that you're reading about or these books that you're reading, they share the strategies and actionable items that you can use, then you've saved thousands of dollars, not just in education, but in maybe whatever endeavor you plan to go into. You reduce the risks and the failures and all of those things. So those are some of what you would recommend.
Yeah, I would recommend those. I definitely think I think it's important to find people in history that you feel like you look up to or that you think are inspiring, and read their biographies or their autobiographies, because you will learn that, a lot of the things that they have experienced, you'll find your own story in there too. And you'll find your solutions to some of your challenges in there as well. So
okay, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't actually read as many biographies as I have self-development books, and like I explained to you, one of the books I'm reading now, 10X is easier than 2X, and so yeah, that's great. Now, because we're here in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, maybe you can share with people how to access you or how to reach you, so that because a lot of our Canadian, especially Toronto, Ontario area, they're looking to expand their portfolio beyond the borders. And so it'd be nice if they could have someone to connect with.
Absolutely.
Because prior to coming here, and I was telling Karen, one of the articles that I was recently reading put Champaign as one of the top 10 places that you can still get properties under 200,000.
Yeah.
So people, you can come
Yes.
work with Dionne
Yes,
and
please.
buy and get into the rental space, because
Yeah.
you don't have to move here to live and own. You don't have to live here to own. You can buy, right?
Yeah.
So maybe share with them how they can reach out.
Yeah. You can reach out to me by phone, email, text. I'm on all social media. My social media handles is my first and last name on everything. So Dionne Clifton on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the things. I'm not super active on TikTok. I still haven't really figured that out, but apparently they're shutting that down. So.
Oh, are they? Well, you know what? There's so many parts of the world that they just don't even want this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I'll absolutely put all of that in the resource area for you in our YouTube links.
Awesome.
So that they'll have access to your info. But thank you so much
it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, no, absolutely. I was excited to meet you. I mean, real estate has always been my passion. I've been trying not to make my whole podcast about real estate, so we've been, trying to get stories from people of all walks. Like, I'm going to be getting to academia while I'm here in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm so proud of all that you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, especially singular, right? Because people think they have to do it with a partner or married. And
I always try and encourage the women that, women are actually the fastest growing demographic of home buyers and business owners.
Yeah, business owners.
So I always try and encourage women, like, you can do this by yourself. And, we are socialized in a lot of ways that, buying a home is for when you're married, but it's not. It's the way you can build wealth. And that doesn't mean that you can't get married. It means that you are preparing for wealth in your future. So,
yes, absolutely. Well said. Thank you. Enjoying our podcast? Stay connected beyond the episodes by following us on our other social media channels for exclusive content and updates. Don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and share to help us grow and reach even more listeners. Your support means the world to us. Let's keep the conversation going.